Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we're going to be giving my final thoughts here on the 2021 Lexus IS 350 F Sport, and I'm going to try something a little bit different. I'm going to take us on a little bit of a scenic drive so you guys can get some really cool viewpoints and everything. And yeah, so we'll be talking about everything about this car, whether or not you should buy one, and then you guys will have a beautiful view while we're talking about all of that. So let's get into it. Let's get into summing things up here with this Lexus IS 350 F Sport, my final impressions, and whether or not you should look into purchasing one. So first off, exterior styling. You guys know I'm a huge fan of Lexus styling on most of their vehicles, and this one is definitely one of them. It looks beautiful from every single angle. It's just such a good looking car. Like, there just really isn't a bad angle on it, and especially for a sedan. I'm usually not a huge fan of sedans. I kind of prefer two-door cars, but this as a four-door car, I think just really hits the spot. It looks absolutely perfect. And then also I like just some subtle things. Like I said, the carbon fiber spoiler on the back end I think looks really good, and then the wheels on this as well, just perfection. Now coming to the interior, it's a really nice interior. All the touch points are actually really nice. I like the fact that you've got this perforated leather on the steering wheel, so you get a little bit of a better grip. And then the wood trim at the top is definitely a nice little touch. I like the fact that it's darker wood because this is supposed to be a sportier car. If they did like brown wood, I would be like sacrilege, but they did darker wood, so it actually fits with the theme of the car. And aside from that, the interior is just really nice. Like the infotainment system, easy to use. Most of the controls, right, they actually feel really nice in terms of the actuation with them, and the material use is also really nice. These seats are exceptionally comfortable. They hold you in place really well. They've got nice bolstering, but on top of that, they're just the right amount of softness, but like they support you well, but like you just kind of, it just feels like a nice pillow. They're just really comfortable seats. And if you guys are wondering, I'm just like barely under 6 foot, and I fit in here perfectly fine. Legroom's great. Headroom, I've got plenty above me, so that is not an issue whatsoever. So space in this car is really good. The back seats, right, not the most spacious, but I feel like most people buying these cars usually don't use the back seats all that much. You probably just drive it by yourself, right? Just kind of one of those luxury commuter type cars. But yeah, overall, interior is great. Definitely love the automatic climate controls in this. Like most modern cars nowadays have automatic climate controls, but this just, I don't know, it's so quick with getting the car cooled down that it's just really good. And then the ventilated seat is always on as soon as I get in the car. That's another nice thing that I love about it, is that it's always on full blast so that I don't sweat all over the seat. So that's definitely nice as well. Now, if we get into the driving dynamics, I love the handling and suspension and steering. Now, you don't get a ton of feel through the steering wheel with the IS 350. However, it's really direct actually, and overall it definitely feels sporty from a suspension standpoint and from a handling standpoint. And obviously we're not driving super fast on this canyon road, but hopefully this shows you guys kind of what it is like from a handling perspective. It does a really good job. Pretty much no body roll, and they've just done a really good job with this chassis in terms of making it just sporty overall. Now, my one gripe, and I'll mention this and we'll talk about this for a little bit, is just the transmission. So the engine with this is a 3.5 liter V6. It does great power delivery, really like the engine, but it's held back by this old 6-speed automatic. Now, if you get the rear wheel drive IS's, then you actually get an 8-speed automatic, which is a little bit better, but it's not as good as like super modern automatic transmissions. But this 6-speed automatic really dates the car. I mean, it's just, here, I'll pop it in manual mode, and it just takes forever to respond with anything, right? I'll press the paddle, and then downshift, and then gas it, and then upshift. Like, it's just, it's not all that quick with the transitions between the gears, and it's not the smoothest, and the ratios aren't that great. And so yeah, it's like an almost perfect car, really. I really mean that, because it looks so good. Materials are great, seats are comfortable, the chassis is great, the suspension's great, the engine's even good. It's just, and the all-wheel drive system's fantastic, but it has this transmission that's just so slow. Now, obviously, this transmission's super reliable, super robust, so it does have that going for it, but I think that they could do better. Obviously, they've got that 10-speed automatic in the LC500 that I'm a huge fan of. I think that that transmission in this car would be great, or just something more modern that just is snappier with the shifting. It definitely is in desperate need of that. And that's really the only downside to this car, other than, I guess I mentioned this in my other videos, like that on the dash, I'm not a huge fan. Like the leather up here is really nice, and I think that they should have that leather over the rest of the interior, not like that cheap stuff with the stitching over on the side. So I think they could bring up the interior a little bit. And then I will say, if you get one of these, get it with a red interior, because Lexus's red interiors are like the best. They look so beautiful, and the stitching really comes out when you have the red interior with this car. So if I were to option mine out, I would do a red interior. But yeah, I mean, overall, it's a great car. It's a great daily driver. Like on the highway, it's very smooth. And I'm not going to mention how fast I was going, but at high speeds, very high speeds, it is just super smooth. It just like slices through. And so yeah, I can definitely tell that this chassis not only can handle more power, but it's very comfortable at high speed. So it's a really good sports sedan. And I think that, like, I just think Lexus did such a good job, but they've just held this car back by the transmission. If this had a better transmission, then, I mean, it would be the obvious choice in this segment for me, because it looks better than everything else. I like the interior more, especially at this price point. Like, if you get into like a BMW or an Audi or a Mercedes at a similar price point, you're gonna have like their cheap leather seats, and they're not all that comfortable. The Mercedes has some nice controls, but the BMW and the Audi, like at this price point, they're just not all that nice. You have to spend big money to get a nice interior, whereas this is, you know, pretty affordable, all things considered, right? Being a luxury car, and it's got a really nice interior, and so it's got a lot going for it. It's just that one thing. It's like the hamartia of the car, the fatal flaw of the Lexus IS 350 is the fact that it doesn't have a more modern transmission. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I guess the one thing I will say is, Lexus, if you're watching this, more modern transmission, and give the new IS 500 all-wheel drive. Like, make it an option in the future, because this car is amazing. And if this car had that naturally aspirated 5-liter V8 and all-wheel drive, it would be like the ultimate daily driver. Like, I would, hands down, nothing else would compare to it. That's all I'm gonna say. Please do it. And yeah, that's kind of my final thoughts. I guess if you're looking, obviously you have to answer the question of whether or not you should buy this. I should get into that, and sorry, I'm losing my voice. What I would say is, if you're looking for a great, reliable luxury car that's a really good value, and you don't really care about sporty driving, then this is good. Again, the chassis is great and the engine's great, just the transmission holds it back, that you really can't do crazy sporty driving with it. As soon as they do that, then it'll be great. But yeah, I think it's still really competitive, despite the transmission, I guess is what I'll say.